Does a 15 hit? No, it misses and doesn't kill the nearly dead creature. Oh, dang it. So anyways, on your turn. Oh, it crits and it... Wait a minute. I was given Bless and I rolled a 4. Does a 19 hit and kill it? Welcome, scholars, storytellers, and fellow babysitter DMs. This is the Level Up Corner, led by yours truly, Wizo, as we delve into all the tips and tricks about Dungeons & Dragons. Today's topic is how to handle mistakes. Now, something to clarify, very important at the beginning, this is how to handle honest mistakes. Forgetting a mechanic that was put into play or forgetting a rule genuinely. Not a maliciously intentional mistake, such as, I rolled a 13. Grab the dice really quickly. Just grab it so that the person can't see or the DM can't see. That's just straight up cheating. This is for those people who just honestly didn't remember or when you're learning something new together. Now, the first rule of handling these mistakes is to always stick to your code. Have consistency. If in that intro example, you decided to let the 19 slide and kill the creature, then you need to make sure that it's okay for the DM to do so, and vice versa. So if you do something as a DM, it needs to be okay for the player to do it. If the player does something, then it has to be okay for the DM. You can't have this wishy-washy code that really benefits me or the players, but doesn't benefit the opposite side. It needs to be consistent. But the question is your code actually good? Or is there a problem with your code of conduct? Now, what I would suggest is that if a person is trying to take back an action when another person has gone, whether it's movement, main action, bonus action, or is trying to redefine what happened a few turns ago, do not allow takebacks well after the situation has already happened. If a person clarifies before you roll an attack with the monster, or before another person takes a move or a bonus action or anything, that, wait, I rolled a bless. I forgot I had bless. Can that hit? Generally, that is okay. You can allow the person to get away with an honest mistake where they forgot a mechanic, as long as no one else has really gone or it's not impacted the situation whatsoever. You might even be gracious enough to allow that effect to come into play when movement has already happened, but not, of course, a main action that has already been resolved. That is generally a no-go and will stop a lot of problems from occurring. You might think this is a little bit harsh, but the players are expected to at least know their character and to not be completely babysat by the DM. The DM has a lot of things that they're trying to do. They're trying to recall the rules, the situation, the monsters, the environment, the turn order, everyone's rules, everything. You're just like a chicken with your head cut off, looking everywhere else. So the players should be able to be held responsible for what they should know and what they're actually doing. If they don't recall it and they can't just do a take back, then they will retain that information better in the future and actually apply it instead of having these situations crop up more and more. Like what would happen if they constantly rely on the DM. Your players can be responsible. Now, we have only talked about the players making a mistake, but what about the DM? Is a DM allowed to make more mistakes? Well, the DM, as we already said, has a lot on their plate, and they're going to make more mistakes than the player. In fact, I, even after 20 years of DMing, do make mistakes. About once a session, maybe more. So you will make these small mistakes. It could be a small math miscalculation. It could be a small rule that you had forgotten. But in general, if it's very small, such as they rolled a 19 to hit and you said that it didn't since you thought Shield of Faith was still active, which makes the AC 22, just keep going. You don't want to interrupt the flow of combat, and you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. But if the players actually catch it, and it's a bigger mistake, especially if it's a bigger rules mistake, then that is when you need to be completely honest with your players and say, oh yeah, you're right, I completely forgot, I'm sorry about that, and just move on. Now, this is not a green light to go ahead and just cheat and whatever else. Yes, as a DM you can cheat, but you want to make a fair environment. You at least want to make it feel like a fair environment. So you don't want to rely on this. You don't want to do this intentionally. Again, this is if you make some honest mistakes, and it happens. But this is just for those mechanics that you forget, right? For the little small mistakes that happen every now and then. But what about the grander mistakes? What about rules mistakes? Now, these are usually a bit harder to deal with. If, for example, you want to make it so that your player can't dual wield a rapier with a short sword because you've realized, oh my goodness, you can't do that with the rules. I thought you could just dual wield any weapon that was finesse, but it's light. Well, you need to talk to the players and let them know. Let them know why you're doing it. Let them know that I do want to play by the rules, and I know you want to play by the rules, and I made an honest mistake. So, can we fix it? Can we make it to where you wield a short sword instead and just play by what we're intended? I will give you a short sword. Accommodate the players. Make sure it's not going to be a rules hassle, such as, oh, you can't dual wield with a rapier. Guess you can't dual wield anymore at all. Have to make a decision, short sword and dagger or rapier. No, be accommodating to your players. If they had a magical +1 rapier, change it into a +1 short sword. Try to help them. Don't try to be adversarial and just say, well, now you're doing what I say. Make sure that everyone's on the same page with this. And we all make mistakes. We all learn things. That's part of life. Now, this seems like a discussion that you would have outside of game when you've realized, oh man, I looked up this rule, and you message the person by texting them or whatever saying, hey, I realized this happened. I was wrong about it. This is a rule that's actually part of D&D, and we need to go by it, etc. But what if you do this in mid-session, in mid-combat? Someone brings up a rule and asks, hey, why is Jerry dual-wielding with a rapier and a short sword? He can't do that. Like, wait, yes he can. Can't he? What? And then you look up the rules and realize, wow, this is actually pretty bad. Well, you should try to make sure that you handle this either as quickly as possible. If it is just flat out 100% true, the person has the page number, they're able to show you exactly where it is, yep, deal with it then and there, quick and easy. But if it interrupts the flow of combat, if Bill over there said that Jerry can only dual wield with a short sword and dagger, and you all think that they can with a rapier, you don't stop combat and what you're doing. Look up the rules, spend 5 to 10 minutes to figure out if this rule's correct or not. Just go with the flow. Just say, you know what? We will continue with what we have been using, which is always the best way to default to if you're unsure. Continue with what we've been using until we have the time to look at it, really give it a critical eye, and say that this is definitively what it is. And then we can change it. Always veer on keeping the flow of the game going and what rules you currently have before you change them. Only change the rules when there is absolutely 100% definitive proof, evidence, and reason, whatever you want to call it, to change those rules. And if you have to deal with a convoluted rule, such as grappling and sentinel. Oh man, if I grapple someone, I'm making a special melee attack. But sentinel, from what I've been able to see and tell, is meant to take an attack of opportunity when someone else attacks, not me, with a melee weapon attack is the intention, but they worded it as a melee weapon attack for melee spell attack. And grappling isn't really a melee weapon attack, but it's a melee special attack. Should it be? At this point, you've lost it. You've lost it. This has already gone convoluted. It's already complex. And if you can't make a ruling based on that information, the best way to go about any convoluted rules or rulings or honest mistakes that you think could be is to have the players pick evens or odds and roll a die. If it is ever in dispute and you think you might make a mistake, whether it's rules or anything else, just roll a die and it's 50-50 chance. Favors the players or it doesn't. And that's how it is this time. Later on, we can look into it, but for now, we have to keep the pace of the game going. And whenever there are any intense disagreements with rules, if someone just says, no, that's not right, and you ended up going with a die roll, and afterwards everyone's a little bit tissy or upset about it, then you should make sure that there are no hard feelings afterwards. Look it up, figure out if you're right or wrong, and then try to make sure you don't make the same mistake going forwards. There will always be mistakes. We are human. As long as they're honest mistakes, that's okay. Most people are fine with that. Just make sure that you always veer on giving the players a bit of an advantage if you're ever concerned, and to keep the flow of the game going. But I want to know how you all deal with mistakes. Honest mistakes, mind you, not the intentional, oh, well, actually, got your rules lawyers moment. No, the honest mistakes of I forgot this mechanic, or oh, this is a completely different rule. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to ding that bell so that you can stay informed on our next video. Until then, my friends, always remember, your players love and appreciate you. And keep rolling. Keep rolling.